We have discussed Ambedkar's take on what happened in the context of partition. How is Ambedkar's account different from the mainstream economist, mainstream historian? Ambedkar was frank. He was not trying to be politically correct. He was insightful, incisive, frank, and bold. And whatever he said against Islam or Muslims, he didn't say them out of hatred. He said those things out of deep compassion. That's how he is different from others like Savarkar, who may have said similar things against Muslims. I asked before if Tagore is saying the same thing that the Savarkar is saying, what does it mean? It means completely different things. When Tagore says it is out of compassion, when Savarkar says it is out of hatred. What Ambedkar discussed was out of compassion. Ambedkar, who wrote Partition of India or Pakistan, was the same person who was concerned about issues of justice, Dalit rights, was not a different person. So, Ambedkar had the compassion, concern, and he was truthful. But what did Indian historians do? They simply ignored the role of Islam. They won't talk about atrocities, conversions, destructions of temples, bias, special tax against Hindus, Hindu-Muslim divide, and the depth of hatred between the two communities, which is revealed through a rioting. The ability of Hindus and Muslims to murder, rape, which show enormous sense of hatred, which comes out during a riot. So, historians didn't talk about this. They found it convenient to blame the British. Divide and rule is responsible. Okay. And atrocious things they said. For example, Romila Thapar says, it just so happened that the rulers from a particular period happened to be Muslims. Before that, they happened to be Hindus. So, religion of the rulers, according to her, is incidental. And somebody else says, making it the essential issue is wrong. That's not essential at all. There are many other things. So how did they cover up? By what? They said things like all religions are equal. How can all religions be equal? And all contain the truth. How can they say they contain truth in the first place? They may contain truth, they may contain nonsense. And true Hindu or true Muslim can't do anything wrong. How do we know that? How do we know that the person who is killing is not following the religion without looking at what is the nature of the religion? So, they all said nice things, glossed over the differences. Okay. And what are the consequences of this? Consequences of this kind of writing is that history doesn't represent the truth. Truth may be much more complex than any discipline can capture. But historians should struggle to capture the truth. He cannot choose to be partial. Even after trying his best, what he says will remain partial. That is a different thing. So, here historian didn't struggle to give the complete truth. He undermined the differences. He said wrong things. Okay, so the gap between the reality and history is created. What happens when there is a gap? People who read history don't think that is the truth. They have their experience of other communities. Hindu, for example, knows what a Muslim is, his experience in writing, the things that he heard of orally, his impressions of their rigidity, of their disloyalty, whatever. So, he feels that what he is taught or what he read is not completely true. Something is missing. Either it is completely false or it is only partially true. So, student perceives the gap between the history and reality. And what happens then? When he sees the gap, that becomes the potential for somebody else to fill it. He will bring about how many temples are destroyed, what Muslim rulers did, okay, how they are disloyal. That may not be done very systematically and scientifically. So, the gap can be filled in very unsystematic, unkind, unscientific and in ways that promote hatred. I think this is what happened in Indian context. Hindutva and the popularity of Hindutva came as a result of the gap between the history and the reality. I would say that's how the evil feeds on the gap between history and truth. Hindutva that we are seeing today is undoubtedly an evil. But that evil is created by wrong history, partial history. Half truth produced this. So, what is the way out? A historian should confront the full truth, should be prepared to say, this is what I observed. This is the nature of religion. This is the nature of Muslim rule. This is the mindset. And what we should do to create better India. If he has solutions, let him. If he doesn't have solutions, leave the problems. But don't lie. Don't cover up. One recent example is American election. Obama refused to name terror as radical Islamic terror. He said, Islam is one of the greatest religions. And the people who are resorting to terrorism have a distorted understanding of Islam. How does he know? Whose understanding is distorted? And doesn't even call the terror is linked to the religion. But what did Trump do? He gave a name, Islamic terror, radical Islamic terror. He talked about disloyalty, how some Muslims celebrated 9/11 in America. Many people felt connected. They found Obama might be a nice person, but he was hiding. And Trump was speaking the truth. Similar thing is going on in India. Partial truth leading to unhealthy reactions. So, history should be blamed for the rise of Hindutva. That's what I want to say. Second thing is, the issue of relationship between history and power. So when some people give partial truth as history, and they use power to make partial truth as full truth, they leave the gaps. And when somebody else comes to power, he wants to write a different history, filling up the gaps or exaggerating things in his own way. So, if history is full of gaps and history is determined by power, what happens is when the power changes, there is a pressure on history to rewrite. Again, this is what is going on. Hindutva people are saying, you had power, so you had your own history, Now, our turn. So, what is wrong with that argument? So, it is a fight between one falsehood and another falsehood. To get into dangers like this. So, historians should confront the nature of religion, the kind of mindset it produces, the immense hostility, serious problems. Historians should not shun truth. If he is compassionate, that compassion should take truth to be on its side. Truth cannot be a villain of compassion, inclusion, and kindness. Truth will be a friend and should remain as a friend for the people who are concerned about creating inclusive society. History should not be for manipulation, however noble the intention behind manipulation is. Thank you.